Okay, so this is the second part of the lecture of the video. Okay, so we now have the humoral response continuation. So a while ago, we have to talk about the IgM and IgG. This time, IgA, which is a dimer. You know that IgA is a dimer. IgA and IgM are being connected by J chain. J means joining. IgA is rich in secretions. So, in secretions, they are secreted at the mucous membrane. So, IgA would be important for mucosal immunity. So they are important for mucosal immunity. IgE is very low but increases up to 10 times in cases of allergic reactions. Okay, so they have a good role in clearance of parasites and allergies. So for example, this is the mast cell. Are you familiar with mast cells? Mast cells are tissue basophils. So, if these are the mast cells, so what will usually happen is that IgE is here. So, let's say for example, there's an allergen. Second exposure of allergen, the mast cells would be degranulated. And once degranulated, the mast cells will release its content. And the contents of these mast cells are actually pre-formigators of allergic reaction. And the most common of them is what you call histamine. So which means, that's the reason why, though IgE has the lowest concentration, it increases up to 10 times in cases of allergic reaction. IgD is surface bound, very low in serum concentration, but apparently this IgD has a role in signaling of B cell receptors. So these are the antibodies, also known as immunoglobulin. Its electrophoretic mobility is that it's a gamma globulin. Migrate the slowest. So what are the parts of antibodies? This is how we depict antibodies for illustration purposes. So each monomer is divided into three regions actually. We have two FAB fragment for antigen binding, and this portion here we call it the FC fragment crystalline, because this is the one that crystallizes upon purification. So who studied antibodies? Papain, the enzyme that could actually fragment the antibodies is known as the papain. But the model was proposed by Porter. So Porter was the one who proposed the model for antibodies. FAB is the fragment for antigen binding, because antigen will usually bind at this particular portion. Okay. Now, each monomer of antibody has one pair of heavy chain. Where's the heavy chain? Here. This is the heavy chain. You have one pair of heavy chain, and then you have another pair of light chain. So here's the heavy chain, here's the light chain. So I have one pair of heavy chain one pair of light chain. So, heavy chain depends on the classes of immunoglobulins. If we're talking about the mu chain, that's the IgM. Alpha heavy chain, that's the IgA. Gamma heavy chain, that's the IgG. Delta heavy chain, that's the IgE. Epsilon heavy chain, that's the IgE. Unlike the light chain is either made up of kappa, and the other one is lambda. Okay? So that's the light chain. Either, it's made up of kappa and lambda. Okay. The region that you see here, did you see the gray and the blue region? Okay. This is what you call variable region. Because the amino acid varies. That's why it's called the variable region. And then, the region that you have here, you have the constant region. That's why there are 4 domains in immunoglobulins. Okay? There are 4 domains. So, what are the domains? So, we have here the variable light chain. This one is the variable heavy chain. This one is the constant light chain. And this one is the constant heavy chain. These are the 4 domains in immunoglobulins. And not only that, the constant heavy chain is further divided into 3. We have the constant heavy chain 1. Here's the constant heavy chain 1, the constant heavy chain 2, and the constant heavy chain 3. So they are divided into the CH is divided. The constant heavy chain is so important because the constant heavy chain is the one that dictates or the one that determines the classes of immunoglobulins. So that's why they're so important because this one dictates or determines the classes of immunoglobulins. So, did you see the region here? Okay. The black thing here, the one that connects the heavy chain and the light chain and the 2 heavy chains is what you call the disulfide bond, SS, or the disulfide bond. Did you see the region here? This one? This is the hinge region. Okay, so that's the hinge region. The reason why antibodies can actually move like that, because of the hinge region. If I have the antibodies and you are the antigen, I'd like to attach to you, but I'm here. So for me, so I can actually simply do this. Hinge region. In Tagalog, we call that the bisagra. Like the bisagra of the pinto. The reason why you can open and close the door is because of the hinge. Bisagra, di ba yun yung pinto? Okay. So these are the 5 classes of immunoglobulin in summary. So as you can see, which one is the lightest? IgG. About 146,000 Daltons. Which one is the heaviest? The IgM. About 970,000 Daltons. There are 3 monomers. IgG, IgD, and IgE. Pentamer, IgM. Dimer, IgA. Only the monomer, only the pentamer and the dimer would have the J chain. J stands for joining. In terms of half-life, the one that could last longer is IgG, 21 days. The one that is the most short-lived is IgE, 2 days. In terms of concentration, The most abundant immunoglobulin in the serum is IgG. About 80 to 85%. The lowest in concentration is IgE. But IgE's concentration could increase up to 10 times during parasitic infection or allergic reaction. Okay, so you might want to read the properties and functions of this immunoglobulin. So these are some of the functions of immunoglobulins. Immunoglobulins could neutralize viruses and toxins. That's why, has any one of you experienced having deep wound or very severe wound? One of the things that the doctors might have given you would be what? Antitetanus. Antitetanus is an antitoxin, the purpose of which is to neutralize. If you have been bitten by a dog, did you receive anti-rabies? Did you receive anti-rabies? Bitten by a dog? Hindi daw, sabi niya. Hindi ka daw naka-receive. Mas marunong ka pa sa kanya. Ikaw ba siya? Did you receive anti-rabies? Did you receive anti-rabies? How did you receive it? By hands or by injection? Okay. So, anyone? Sino pang nakagat ng aso? Sinong kumagat ng aso? Ayan, so lahat kayo. So, kapag nakagat ng aso, you should receive anti-rabies. The purpose is to neutralize the virus. Some of these antibodies could aid in phagocytosis. The process is called what? Opsonization or adherence. Some of them can immobilize and prevent adherence by binding to the flagellum. Some of them can aid in complement fixation. Some of them can agglutinate or precipitate antigen. And most importantly, some of them could be involved in antibody-dependent cellular cytotoxicity or the ADCC. Now, this chart will tell us the importance of continuous immunization by completing the dosage of immunization. So what did I say about the primary response? What is the primary response? Yes, it's IgM. The red one, this one is an IgM. What is the secondary response? IgE. So, the second antibody that will be produced is IgE. Which one has higher concentration? IgG. Which one could last longer? IgG. Okay. Let's say, for example, you'll be vaccinated with hepatitis vaccine. So, what will usually happen is that you have, today is what? July 22, right? 22 ngayon. So, you'll have your first shot today, and then your second shot would be next August 22, and then your booster would be 6 months after. August, September, October, November, December, January, February 22. Okay. So, today you have your first shot, but it will take several days before you produce immunoglobulin. If today is July 22, and then Ma'am Lara said that, tomorrow is July 23 and you'll start your internship. So, what you did is that, you'll have my first shot today, and then tomorrow I'll start my duty. Then you have your first patient. First patient, of course, you're so kabado, so nervous. And then that patient happens to be positive with hepatitis. And then accidentally, can never tell accident. That, hindi naman kita sasasabi. Eventually, eventually, the needle that has pricked a person with Hep B had accidentally stick on you or had injured you. So you have Hep B, and then you know how Hep B could be transferred. Then could you say that, oh, don't you worry, I had my vaccination yesterday. Could you say that? No, because as of yesterday, your immune globulin level is here, undetectable. Are you protected? No. Which means that if you plan to have an internship by April, you should start vaccination today. Because if you do not have this proactive determination of having yourself vaccinated, it means that you don't have any plans of being an intern, and you don't have any plans of being intern that would reflect to your grades, to your actions, everything. Bukas na bukas din. Okay? Now, you might tell me, okay, 1 month after, this is 1 month. 1 month after, the level of immunoglobulins went down. Did you see? Hey, come on, look at the chart. That's the reason why you need to have your second dose. So that it will shoot up your immune globulin. But eventually, the level of your immune globulin will go down. Diba? That's why 6 months after, still have to have another dose so that the level will go up until okay. However, on August 22, that happens to be your monthsary. So, you ask money from your mom, and then instead of you having yourself vaccinated, you vaccinate someone. No, you don't vaccinate someone. You don't inseminate something to anyone at this age of your life. Okay. So, you had a date, okay naman, you played Dota all night, so you use the money for vaccination. You miss, in short, you miss August 22. And then, you have to wait for another sweldo of your mom, September 15. Will that be okay? Dito na yun, mababa. Flatline. September 15 is here. Nagbayad ng medtech party, so September 30 na lang. medtech. So, September 30, pwede? Pwede? Yes, Naomi. Pwede pa?
Mag-i-start po ulit na. Mag-i-start po ulit yung process.
Okay, restart. Sam Smith, restart. Actually, pwede pa. Why? Because we have memory cells. Important for anamnestic response. That's what I told my veterinarian last Sunday. Because I've been so busy with the community. Last Friday. Last Friday, we didn't have any classes, right? So, every Sunday, I'm in the community. So, I have no time to bring Maggie to veterinarian to complete her vaccine. Her 5-in-1 or 8-in-1 vaccine. So, I went to the veterinary's clinic, and then I show her the vaccine card of my dog, and then parang she kind of freaked out and told me, "Sir, you're supposed to have Maggie's vaccine 3 months ago." Napagalitan ako. How come you didn't bring her 3 months ago? You missed the vaccine. You destroy her schedule and everything like that. And then I told her, "Doctora, don't you worry. We have memory cells responsible for anamnestic response. So even if the level of immunoglobulins will go down because of the missed dose, there's still a chance for these immunoglobulins to go up. Because the cells of one of the cells of our immune system would be the memory cells, and they are important for anamnestic response." And then the doctor told me, "Sige na nga po, alam po ba yung kailangan?" Diba? Are you getting my point? Okay. So, sino mag-intern by April? Okay. So, okay. So these are just the detailed. We've discussed this already. The detailed structure of IgG, IgM, showing the disulfide bond. I did mention already about the J chain, right? And then the difference between the two, IgG versus the IgM. Which one could cross the placenta? You know that already. Which one is the primary response? Which one is the secondary response? Which one is much heavier? Which one has more concentration in the serum? Okay. So, in primary response, it's more of IgM, but eventually it will decline. And then in secondary response, that's what you call an amnestic immune response because of the memory cells. IgG will shoot up. So, that's the secondary response. Okay, so let's talk about the cell-mediated immunity. The one that we've talked about a while ago. Tandaan ninyo class, whenever there are participation of plasma cells, memory cells, and production of antibodies, okay, that's what you call humoral response. But this time, let's talk about the cell-mediated immunity. Cell-mediated immunity will allow protection from intracellular pathogens. So this will allow protection from intracellular pathogens. This would include, what are the cells that are involved? The cells that are involved include the T helper cells and the cytotoxic T cells. T helper cells are capable of producing lymphokines or cytokines, which could we could consider them as a form of communication among the different cells of our immune system. So this form of communications could be in the form of cytokines or lymphokines. Okay? And then the cytotoxic T cells could kill infected cell. So, well, just to give you a background, again, going back to hematology. The cells of the immune system, these are the blood cells. But our concern here would be here. These are the cells of our immune system. The lymphoid stem cell, which could give rise to the T lymphocytes and the B lymphocytes. So, the WBCs include the eosinophil increases in parasitic infection. Eosinophil has MBP, or the major basic protein that could be toxic for the helminths. The basophil could eventually become a mast cell, okay, that contains mediators for allergic reaction. Neutrophil, monocytes, these are what? Phagocytic cells. Monocytes are the macrophages. And then the T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. So, the phagocytic cells are the neutrophils and the monocytes or the macrophages. The neutrophil, more active, will first go to the site of the inflammation, but they are short-lived. So, eosinophils are involved in allergic response, inflammation, and release of histamine. Histamine could also be released by basophil, but these two are considered as the mediators of adaptive immunity. So we have the T lymphocytes and the B lymphocytes. Okay, despite of the fact that our immune system is very strong, very efficient, there are still mechanisms by which microbes could overcome the host defense by inducing immune tolerance. Meaning, they could, sometimes this antigen or these microbes may not be recognized as foreign. So that's what you call immunologic tolerance. Second, by immune suppression. Some of these microbes could actively destroy, inactivate, or limit the effect of immune response. Do you know, some bacteria could produce IgA protease. Do you know what's the function of that protease? That bacteria could produce enzyme that could destroy our antibodies. Okay? Imagine, they would destroy our antibodies. It took some energy for the part of the plasma cells to produce these antibodies, only to be destroyed by the bacteria. Antigenic variation. There are many forms. Viruses could mutate. And whenever they mutate, they could be recognized as something new, and we are helpless if it's something new. Every 10 years, it happens. The last pandemic of H1N1 happened in 2009, and the next pandemic would happen 10 years after that. They change. And of course, they also have what you call intracellular hiding. Do you know that? Are you familiar with schistosoma, a parasite? Schistosoma. The infective stage of schistosoma is cercaria. And it enters your body by skin penetration. Usually, where they find the cercaria? In the river. When you swim, or when you swim, or pag naglalabas sa river, sometimes your foot is immersed in the water, and then the cercaria will enter. Once this cercaria enters the body, it will utilize your flesh. It will cover itself so that they will not be recognized by the self-immune system. Some of them could hide. Let's say, for example, are you familiar with chickenpox? Chickenpox. Chickenpox is caused by varicella. Sometimes, your immune system could eradicate them. So sometimes you drink drugs that could eradicate them. But you cannot eradicate them all. Some of them could hide. They could hide in your nerve cells. And once they hide in your nerve cells, they cannot be seen by the immune system. And once you become immunocompromised, your immune system becomes weak, they will go out again of your nerve cell. But this time, they will not go out as chickenpox, but will go out as shingles. Shingles, ito yung kapag wala ka pang boyfriend or hindi pala yun. Shingles. Are you familiar? Shingles zoster. Ayun. So, shingles are latent infection of chickenpox. Okay, so going back, so you should be familiar already with the organization of the immune system.